Media.
Hey, we're back. Another episode. Full cast today. Sean's here, Anthony's here, I'm here, and today we're going to talk about the adventures of running a Svelte Meetup. Hi guys, what's up?
Hey. We meet up every week now.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. You get to talk to people often now, right? Sean, you're traveling once again.
I'm in San Francisco now. I might be going to Miami next again.
Ooh. Are you just ping-ponging back and forth?
Yeah. Just I didn't really plan all this, but it's just happening that way, and playing it by ear.
Nice.
Just having a jolly.
Does sound fun. I actually booked a flight the other day, so I'm going to JSConf Budapest, and I decided to go for a bit longer than the conference itself. So I'm probably staying close to a week, which is nice. What about you, Anthony? What have you been up to?
Yeah, just, usual kind of bit of work, having fun. What have I done in the last week? I've done an immense amount of things and nothing at the same time, I guess. It feels like the weeks just fly by right now.
Yeah.
I would say probably the most poignant thing is another one of those, like, let's open a discussion thing, which is, branch-based deploys are great when you've got an app that runs, it's just kind of a single thing and it runs on its own. How are people doing it when you've got an entire platform with, let's say, about 10 apps? Because it gets much more difficult. And I think I'd definitely be interested in ideas to see what other people are doing in this instance, because, one QA environment for a whole team is not very sustainable. So that's the current challenge on my mind.
I don't get it. Why is it different for 10 apps?
Well, because you might have a branch on 3 different apps because you are building a feature across 3 apps, right? So you want those 3 branches to deploy to an environment, and then you want master or main or whatever for everything else. So you've got your whole application running with your new branch, with your new branches.
Okay.
Before you merge them all back into main.
Got it.
So, for example, on Vercel, you could deploy a branch automatically. Every branch gets its own little subdomain. You can't do that really when you've got loads of apps, because each one's independently deployed. It's tricky. It gets trickier.
Yeah, that sounds like not so fun.
It would be great when it works, but
yeah. I'm sure there's like some nice SaaS company that charges like $60,000 a month to solve this for you.
You should solve your own problems and then
test it out.
Beyond Web Services. You build your own platform.
BWS.
Oh dear, the problem is this actually happens, and then I end up with like yet another thing to look over.
Yeah, second business. It's fine.
Yeah, yeah. If you want to build AWS on your own, maybe.
BWS.
Sorry, BWS.
Sean has experience working at AWS. Maybe
running it
maybe
himself.
You can recruit him to build it for you. All right, so this topic, we're going to talk about organizing and hosting Svelte meetups, pretty much. So we all, way back in, I think it was 2019, right? We all organized a meetup roughly at the same time.
It's Anthony's fault, basically.
I'm very sorry. I'm not sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, it was a good. How do you say it in English? In Swedish, you'd say "kick in the butt" to get started.
Yeah. It's a kick in the butt for myself, for sure. It's like, I'll run a meetup. I have no idea how to organize things. I don't know how to do public speaking. I'll just wing the whole thing.
Yeah, it was the same for me. I think Sean, you'd probably done some talks and stuff before that, right?
I'd done a few more events, but it was the first time, I guess, starting one from scratch.
Yeah. So how, when I started, Anthony, I had no idea about public speaking. I didn't know how this thing worked. I just created an account on meetup.com and I just created an event. Well, the group first and then the event. I didn't have a venue and I just YOLO'd it. and magically someone appeared offering their like venue. So I was lucky, I guess. I don't know. How did you guys find a venue?
Well, I mean, for me, it was pretty easy. I just tweeted it out, and then I got like a venue and like speakers, and 50 people signed up. So it wasn't that hard.
Right. You probably had a pretty large following compared to the two of us. So
it also helps that like, and this is the whole reason I did it was I had Rich Harris in my city.
That is true. That's like a cheat code.
That's a cheat code. So yeah, it's not all me.
So how I did it? Well, I had a friend who I used to work with. You know, he was a web dev back in the day, I guess. He sort of realized his own dream of owning a bar, owning a pub, whatever. And so he bought with two other friends this huge bar in East London called the Fugitive Motel. And I went for a visit to see him. I hadn't seen him in about 10 years, and I wanted to see like what this place was like. And it's absolutely massive, like it's humongous. And it's almost like it's so big you can split it in two. And so I was looking around and I noticed they've got a massive screen for sports and stuff. I was chatting away with him and he's like, oh, you know, we want to do like, we actually started doing a couple of like conferences here. And I was like, hey, that's interesting. And so kind of stars aligned because at the time I was mulling over the idea of a Svelte Meetup. And so I thought, well, I can have it here. We can test this out and see what this setup's like. And that's kind of it really. And it was pretty much perfect because we had this whole other side of the bar to ourselves. Great screen, HDMI hookup, all the speakers and stuff, you know, in the room operating for us. And people just kind of wandered in, and you know the food's good there and stuff. So you know when you start a meetup, you can't afford food and drink for everyone, so it's kind of buy your own, but it's right there. No one has to like bring anything in or anything like that. So it was really convenient. And I know there's a lot of stuff around running it in a bar isn't necessarily accessible for everybody. It's not necessarily, you know, kind of inclusive, but at the time it's what I had, and it was a perfect venue in my eyes for that. So it worked pretty well, and we actually filled the room on the first meetup, which was probably the most surprising of all.
I don't know. Svelte 3 had just released, right? Well,
it's
kind
true.
of.
It just released, so. Yeah, and there was also the noise of the New York meetup and stuff as well that helped.
Yeah.
And so people got really interested at that point, I guess, thinking, oh, where's my London one?
Yeah,
and so it went pretty well. We've done it in a few venues since because we've added new co-organizers. So Joe, he happened to live. This is going to sound weird. He happened to live at a college that was in East London. I don't know how that works, but it's this sort of house that's got residential flats on top. It's the London School of Politics, I believe, and downstairs they've just got this massive empty warehouse, and so they do talks in there and conferences. So. Also a really cool venue.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and it's around the corner from the other one, so anyone who comes to one can kind of get to that one pretty easily. But yeah, so that's also a good venue. We've got that, and that's sort of available for us to use when we want to now. And I think we're looking at another venue as well, just to mix it up a bit, you know, make it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you've been pretty lucky with the venues, then. I can imagine.
I think it's luck, but I think it's not. You don't need to be lucky or well connected or anything like that. You know, it's just a matter of. Places have this availability, and you just have to find the right amount of stuff. Like, well, so before you continue, Kev, I was going to say the reason we get, for example, all this for free at Fugitive is because we bring people to a place that sells things, right? And so they get money when they're low, right? Because COVID almost killed them, you know, and so they get revenue from people being there. We get a free venue, so it works for everyone really. We do it on days where they don't have much foot traffic anyway, so we're kind of giving them customers.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense. I think so. So for the Stockholm one, the first venue we had, it was some weird, like, I can't remember exactly what the service was, but they were doing something in like healthcare, like some kind of solution for healthcare providers to hire personnel, like in times of when they needed extra manpower.
Interesting.
For some reason, they were also interested in Svelte, and so we just ended up being in their huge, like, pretty corporate office. But that was pretty cool. But since then, they only wanted to host once. I don't know if they actually got what they wanted from that. Maybe it was a bit too much work, and so we ended up at a place where, so it's like a consulting firm. called Valtech. They're pretty big around the globe, and so ever since that first time, we've been at this Valtech place, and they have pretty nice setup. They have like all the audio and the video equipment, all of that stuff set up already, and they usually provide the food and some drinks for everyone that comes. And I suppose like in exchange, they get to talk with developers that are actually interested in developing, because interested developers show up to meetups, right? So for them, I think it's kind of like a recruiting thing, which makes sense. But yeah, I kind of want to mix it up a bit. So next month, we're going to be at one of Sweden's largest newspaper companies, which is nice. And we're going to do like a data viz graphics stuff. It's funny how like so many papers around the world use Svelte for data viz. It's actually pretty nice.
Well, that's kind of where it stemmed from, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that, we talk about this now when we were kind of like an unknown and we were scraping around to find venues. As this grows and as every other framework and language, wherever has grown, we end up in a position whereby we have an ever-growing mass of people. And at that point, for example, I was involved very early on in 2017 with a couple of guys who were into blockchain, and they made a thing in blockchain in London called Blockchain Beginners. And I think their third meetup, they had 400 people attend, 400 people in the waiting list, literally queuing outside to come to this conference, right? And it's just these two blokes who just like, wow, let's run a blockchain conference. And it's to do with the popularity, it's to do with the mass, right? And at that point, we were hosting it in this absolutely humongous building. I can't remember who it was, like Salesforce or Bloomberg or somebody's bottom of their ground floor, where they would normally do their own conferences or internal conferences. But they're a big company, so huge, 1,000-person conferences. And they provided drinks, food, security, everything, right? And they were one of many people who were begging them to host at their place, because they're getting their little pitch in, their names in the background, they've got their, someone introducing, they've got their advertising, leaflets, whatever they want to do. They're getting 400, 800 odd, probably not all engineers, but engineers, product managers, interested people, whoever, turning up, and like a captive audience in their building. And I think that mass, helps with that. You can people will give you hosting, people will be dying to host you at that point.
Yeah. So Sean, you hosted a watch party for the last Svelte Summit. What was the experience doing that?
Oh my goodness, that was basically a mini conference.
Yeah.
Because what was the origin of that? I had no idea. Why did I do it?
I just thought you wanted to meet people while you were in New York, and you wanted to do a watch party or something.
Did I fly to New York just to do that? I don't actually remember why else I did it. Yeah, I think I flew to New York just to do that. I think so. We had Svelte Summit, and I think everyone had got their vaccines, and it seemed like there was no big wave or anything like that. And I really wanted to get the in-person thing going again. And so I thought that Svelte Summit would be a good opportunity. And so I think I just like proposed it, and Rich said he would come, and then I started needing to look for a venue and all that, and basically threw it together within like a couple of weeks. And what that involves was 100 people. We booked out like a warehouse in Brooklyn, and then getting a bunch of sponsors to sponsor, food, and I guess the venue itself was the biggest expense. And then also, like, I guess we had an after party, which Fauna very kindly stepped in and helped to sponsor, because that was way more expensive than I expected, because it involved drinks and games and stuff like that. And then, I think basically once you announce an event like that, it will probably fill up. And it really did, including the Vercel team came by. Temporal also sponsored, because we're using Svelte Kit. And when I say Vercel, like Guillermo Rauch showed up and brought.
That was pretty random.
Yeah, half of his team. It was random at the time, and then we found out that which Richard was joining Versailles, so maybe not so random. But I think also like they were taking this opportunity to gather everyone in New York, so not so much of a surprise. I think the other thing that was really interesting was just how much people just step forward and propose stuff. Like I said, bring your own booze, like BYOB, because I didn't want to pay for alcohol essentially.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have a license or anything like that, and I just didn't want to worry about that. But I was like, if you want to bring your own, that's fine. And then a bunch of people just brought like way too much alcohol and just left it on the table. So then we had the Svelte house or Svelte shack, and I just brought back a whole bunch of alcohol that we could never finish. So yeah, I think that was a really crazy event. But I think to me, like for me, that was the biggest event so far that I've been primary organizer for. And I think it was a nice practice run for future events that, where I expect more people.
Yeah. Well, what was like the bad parts and the good parts? Like, what did you learn? Anything that stands out?
Well, for people who run events, like this is a well-known thing that you typically have to put your own money up front to book a venue. And then the sponsors come in later.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I mean, it is a big decision and big financial risk. But, people are very, very kind with sponsoring. So I don't think that's a real issue. And then the logistics of making sure everyone comes in with their, like the tables and the food and making sure you have enough food and then realizing you have too much food and clearing away all the stuff. Yeah, it's pretty stressful on that day of, and then you can't really be social, which you want to be because you organize the conference. So, but your responsibility is to make the logistics flow well so that people don't even notice. And I was also the AV guy, and that meant that I could not do separate recordings, which I really wanted to. So, yeah, I think basically my learning is like have a separate logistics person from an organizer who makes sure that everyone is at ease and is introduced to the right people that they want to meet and feels included. I think these are multiple jobs.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I've been as you all probably know, I've been planning this in-person conference, right, for the fall, and it's kind of the closer it gets, the more daunting I realize that it is, and I probably need to hire someone to handle like the more of the logistical parts. But I actually managed to find a venue that doesn't charge up front. They actually charge after, so that's pretty nice. And they also handle the catering, which is another nice thing. So hopefully it's going to go smooth. But maybe we sell
is there AV person.
No, so that's something I'm probably going to have to figure out because I'm going to record them as well, right, and put them on YouTube. So I need it to work properly. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of stuff to think about. But so for me, it's also about the parts that are around the actual conference. So like you have to order lanyards, right? And you have to figure out, like if you're doing sponsor booths, you have to make sure that you order roll-ups for the sponsors so they can have like some, because they're not gonna, like obviously a San Francisco company isn't gonna bring their own booth from San Francisco. They're just going to fly in and they want something that's simple to set up. So that's another thing to think about. And then yesterday I was thinking about like, stickers. I need stickers for like the goodie bag, and I need a t-shirt. And now apparently I can't use Fruit of the Loom because they suck according to Anthony. So I need to use what was the name? Stanley and Stella or something?
Stanley Stella, yeah.
Yeah. So that's going to be fun to order like a bunch of samples and see how that works out. But yeah. So that's probably like a meetup on steroids. But let's get back to meetups. Like I find it to be it's pretty hard to find speakers here in Stockholm. I usually have to do a talk myself. Yeah, I usually have to do at least one talk myself. Like last time I did an intro to Svelte. I think that makes sense to have at meetups, like a short intro. How does it work? Because there are going to be new people there, and they want to see what it's about. And then you want maybe an intermediate session and then a more advanced one if you can manage to find someone that can do that. Something for everyone, pretty much. But yeah, if you decide to like start a meetup, it's definitely be prepared to do at least 1 or 2 talks yourself at the start, and then hopefully you can get someone else to chip in. And there's also the option of reaching out to people online and asking them to do it from some other place and just stream it in.
Yeah, I think
that's completely fine.
Yeah, they're a great sort of backup. Obviously, in person is a bit easier, but given good tech and stuff, you can have a remote talk that's pretty good.
Yeah,
we struggled a lot. So recently we had the New York meetup be rebooted by 2 guys who are actually in New York instead of me, and Rich actually gave a remote talk because he had COVID at the time, and we had a lot of AV issues. Like it was much better online than it was in person.
Right. Yeah, us too. We struggled with for some reason the broadband, even though they've got like gigabit broadband. We struggled with it. I'm not sure why. We ended up using a mobile phone, but this is just conference fare, right? This is what you have to get used to.
I think you need a like for a proper like experience, especially if you're streaming online. I think you definitely need like a separate connection that isn't affected by the venue connection. Well, maybe not at a smaller meetup, but it's definitely something for bigger events. Yeah, it's I think that's. I mean, there are other things to think about when it comes to meetup. Like how do you find people to come to your meetup? Like you got to market it somehow, right? And I think in our case, we're pretty lucky that the Svelte Society account is so huge. Like it's very, very nice to have that. And like for people that want to start meetups, like just reach out and we will retweet. Of course, the first step is probably to create some kind of meetup.com group or down to meet or whatever it is you want to use.
Well, so it's interesting, the meetup.com thing. So when we first started to start meetups, we're using meetup.com, and then they changed the pricing model. And they also have this I think it's a really bad strategy or feature, whatever you want to call it. But if you stop paying for a meetup group, subscription lapse, they don't remove your group and all its attendees. They just open it up to be taken over by anybody. And what happens, especially with the crypto ones, because everyone kind of let them lapse, even Bianca's own group, we had an Adventure Society group that had thousands of members, and they got taken over by basically scammers who had malintents, right? They wanted to sell something. They wanted no one to know that the group had changed hands and it wasn't the group it used to be. It was something different. And they lured a bunch of people in to some kind of like paid adventure thing, thinking it was us. And previously, all of ours had been free community events, that were about adventuring. And the crypto one, I mean, you can imagine it got even worse than that, right? So it was. I didn't like that behavior of Meetup at all, and I kind of fell out with it. And I thought, we'll just move to Down to Meet or something. The problem with that is that all the footfall is on Meetup.com. If your group's on Meetup.com, you're going to get discovered. If it's on Down to Meet, you've got to push people towards it. And it's kind of, it's like a form of lock-in, I guess, for Meetup. It's just one of those things.
Yeah. I mean, they have the network effect, right? That's pretty much it. It sucks because I also I absolutely hate their pricing strategy, especially during COVID. Like, how does it even make sense to charge like $80 per? I think it's like 6 months per 6 months. I think you pay by half a year at a time
for like no features.
Yeah, exactly, because you can't use it. But at the same time, like I understand that their revenues are probably pretty crap during COVID, but still, like you gotta provide some kind of value.
Yeah,
they actually. So I stopped paying for the group during COVID, and they actually the group just disappeared. So we lost like 350 members. I had to restart it.
So the group disappeared?
Yeah, or someone stole it and renamed it.
Must have,
because I guess you can do that.
Yeah.
It's very scummy.
I would prefer for them to disappear.
Yeah,
that would be a better behavior in my mind. I mean, it wouldn't work for them as well, but
yeah. It is what it is. You kind of have to have a meetup group. We can probably help out. Like Svelte Society can probably help out pay if you're running like a local meetup somewhere. We can probably help you pay for that if it's a Svelte Society meetup somewhere in the world.
So a couple things on my side. I prefer Luma, lu.ma. It's good for online meetups as well as in-person meetups. I use Luma both for my work meetups at Temporal and then my even Svelte Summit, the New York one, also was organized on Luma. So highly recommend that one. It's basically a simpler Eventbrite. The main thing you want to look for is actually to let people sign up and then just keep them around. So don't keep signing up from scratch. Don't start from zero every time. Like just carry over the mailing list of people and also send events directly into their calendar. Don't make them click like 3 times and check their email to sign up for just the next meetup. Just send it directly to the calendar. So Luma does that, and that's great. People can unsubscribe if they want to, but otherwise they're just default on. And so people know when the next thing is, and they've already got it on their calendar to find it. So I think that's pretty important. And then the other thing is, if you have a meetup, if you have a Svelte meetup, we actually keep a list of the meetups that have been established by other countries or other cities at Svelte Society. I think it's you just go to Svelte Society and search meetup. We have a list of like 15 or 16 global meetup accounts. Obviously, not all of them are active, so it's a little bit confusing as to like which is active and like, how do you contact people who are still around and still interested and want to get that started again. The only thing I'll say is just DM us and we'll help you.
Yep, definitely. Yeah. So you're actually hosting a meetup today, I think, Anthony.
That's correct. Yes, tonight. I mean, depending on when this goes out, it may be a past event, but yes, London Svelte Meetup. Basically, we try to do a bit more of a regular cadence to give predictability. So it happens around the end of each month now, and of course, always available at meetup.com/svelte.
That's nice. Yeah, I think that's it. Do you guys have any other things that we should talk about?
Yeah,
meetups.
This is an American requirement, but just I think it's a good idea. Okay, I'll start with the sort of politically correct one, and then I'll give one more tip, which is typically you want to have some kind of code of conduct at your meetup. We do have a Svelte Society code of conduct. You can find it on the website, as well as in general, the Svelte community has adopted one. Is there a link that we can drop into the show notes?
Absolutely. And I also just want to add that, like, if you want to use the Svelte Society name for a meetup, you absolutely have to accept this, and it's non-negotiable.
Okay, good. Yeah. Good. And then the other thing, so part of that is basically making sure that if there's any issues that happen during the meetup, people know who to go to. And so point them out. Sometimes having and definitely having more than one person helps, because you might be the problem. So making it safe and inclusive for everybody, I think, is very important for us. We always have problems with diversity and stuff like that. So we need to make sure that people don't get harassed when they come to Svelte Society events, and it has happened. So please, take care of the human side and not just the code side.
And I think this also applies like online as well. Like if you're at a Svelte gathering online, say Svelte Summit, and someone harasses you, you should definitely send an email and like tell us so we can deal with that. There's an email, so it's coc@sveltesociety.dev, which when you send emails there, it goes out to a number of people. So it's not just one person that will see it, but we also make sure, like there are rules to make sure that we don't share anything with anyone, of course, if that's that's probably not something you want if you're sending off one of those. So
yeah, I try to avoid. Okay, so minor organizing tips. This is not as important as the code of conduct. Everyone has pizzas at meetups. I try to avoid it if I can. Like I've gotten like taco catering before, and that seems pretty fun. Like people sort of build their own burrito, build their own tacos or whatever. Anything like this a little bit more healthy than pizzas. I think we would like to encourage healthier eating habits, or just say like take care of your own food. People don't care that. And then one more thing, which is so I stole this from the TypeScript New York meetup, which is basically set the expectation of 3 talks: a beginner, an intermediate, and an advanced talk, with the promise that basically there's something for everybody. Even if you already know Svelte, or if you're new to Svelte, there's room for you here. You can explicitly invite people to bring their laptops and have some hack time. So in Svelte Society, we in the New York event, like half the meetup time was just hack time, where people just work on stuff and ask questions and bring their projects and show people. And I think it's fun. Like maybe it's a bit awkward for people to get together, but hopefully after a couple times meeting together, it's just a nice group to share and learn together. So yeah, that's kind of the structure that I set up for New York.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with the beginner, intermediate, advanced one as well. And I think sometimes you don't have to have a lot of talks. You can just make it a hackathon style thing. You can maybe have like a short intro, and then the intermediate and advanced stuff is more of like you just like group up a couple of people and then you build something. Like it doesn't have to be particularly structured. So yeah, play around with the format as well. It's a lot of fun if it's not the same thing every time.
Awesome.
Cool.
Right.
We're having burgers at the meetup tonight. Just
that's pretty healthy.
I don't know if that's healthier than pizza, but I also I'm not completely sure that tacos are healthier than pizza either.
Is there a bit of green on it? That's my.
Oh yeah, there's a bit of green on it, yeah. But then the pizzas had rocket on them, so who knows?
Ah. maybe you should get those burgers with instead of the bread, it's just a lettuce, so it's like low carb.
Protein burgers. I'm sure they do those. I'm sure they do them. They have also charcoal burgers, activated charcoal burgers, so the bun is black, which I think is just to look cool, to be honest. But
yeah.
I'll activated charcoal. I've heard you're not supposed to ingest it because it stops vitamins being absorbed, but what do I know? Who knows?
I guess we'll see tomorrow if you're still alive.
Oh, I'll definitely be alive.
I'm just joking.
Yeah, with less nutrients.
All right. So we're at the most popular section of the podcast, the unpopular opinions. What do you guys have for me?
Let's see.
We're doing this so often nowadays, so we don't have time to get irritated or do hot takes.
Well, believe you me, I do.
Don't worry, Anthony always got you.
I have today. I haven't actually. I've almost got attention overload.
I think I had one that was that got people mildly defensive, so that's gonna have to pass right now. So essentially, basically, remix guys have been on a daily warpath against Jamstack, and so I think Ken C. Dodds tweeted about what are the benefits of static site generation over server side rendering. Just very innocuous, but obviously, they have an angle on it. And I was thinking through, the evolution of all the static site generators and the frameworks, and I realized that nobody does SSG. Nobody does pure SSG today. Everyone at least has some serverless rendering story, or incremental rendering, or on-demand rendering, whatever you call it. So pure SSG died in 2020. That's my unpopular opinion. And then a bunch of people got defensive. They were like, my blog is still statically generated. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but like your blog doesn't matter. Like the frameworks all...
That's like saying that COBOL is still alive because some bank is using it.
Yeah. I mean, I've also gotten that religion and moved my sites to be generated on demand and cached, and surprised. Like now, when I edit my sites, they build a lot faster because they don't build all the pages at once.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like it
Progress.
almost makes sense.
So yeah, it's not. I think it's not like a shocking revelation, but it is a bit sobering to realize that even the most statically committed of the frameworks like Gatsby and 11t have all editor serverless option.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I think on the subject of tweets that rile people up and tweets that that are good for an unpopular opinion. I mean, it wasn't my opinion. It was a guy called Theo T3.gg. I don't know. I've seen him before.
Sounds like a Twitter name.
It's definitely a Twitter name, yeah. But he posted an example of an if statement in Vue, and then in React, and then in Svelte, and the tweet was like, the Vue one is magic HTML or something. The Svelte one was magic strings or something like that, and then the React one was JavaScript. To the point that React is just JavaScript, but it's not. JSX isn't JavaScript. It never has been. So my controversial opinion, which is probably not that controversial at all, really, is that stop calling React just JavaScript, because it's not. It's just JSX, and it's equally as magic as the other two. But it's just not. We can't keep calling it just JavaScript because it's not.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, it might be so popular that it might become JavaScript.
Sure, they might build it in, but it isn't there now, so we can't go around saying it is.
Fair enough.
Maybe Svelte will become JavaScript. Who knows, right?
Are you worried about it?
About JavaScript?
No, I thought you said you're worried about it actually being incorporated. Sean, maybe
I am worried about it. I don't think that we have found the best possible syntax, and so it might become some half-ass implementation, like the TypeSys comments proposal that is going around right now, where it's like, okay, we can do part of your solution, so we have the idea of you. So in other words, like we have the idea of TypeScript, we have the idea of JSX or React, but we're not going to implement the full thing. So now instead of having portable code or less code, we just have another standard that is a half implemented standard that is ubiquitous because the people in charge of browsers decided.
And no one's going to use it anyway, I guess. Or
I think API design.
3% of the web uses web components. Not small.
It's only 3%?
How many percent of the web do you think uses React?
Oh, that's like 15?
8.
8?
Really?
I'm kind of not surprised.
Looked it up recently.
WordPress is like 60%, right? Which is nuts.
Yeah, WordPress is 40 something, 45, 46. Gains 1 to 3% market share every year. And then jQuery is about 70 something. I just did this. I've been preparing a talk, so all these numbers are pretty fresh in my mind. So yeah, I mean, it's not small. And once you build it into a platform, people are going to use it because it's built in, right? It's official.
Yeah.
Do you mean building React in or building JSX in?
Probably JSX is where they're going to start.
Right.
But I think some form of this partial hydration streaming server-side rendering thing that React is doing should also make it into the browser. But yeah, JSX is the first one. And even JSX, like there's all these debates about JSX v2 that have never been implemented or discussed in full by the React team. So before we formalize the current version of JSX, I would like us to revisit that decision from 7 years ago and try to fix it before we make
pretty
it
old
final.
decision.
Yeah.
I think also, it's a weird one to build in because if you look at JSX, it's great for building essentially DOMs and things like that. It's not as useful for Node, and it becomes a divergence. And the reason that I even use JavaScript is because it converges a lot. You've got Node on the back end, you've got JavaScript on the front end, which is essentially, Node on the back end is essentially V8. It's the same thing theoretically. I know there's obviously differences. I think putting something front end specific or DOM specific in there is really taking that away, and you just end up with a confusing mess of two things that look similar that are not the same.
All right. So, my unpopular opinion, I'm actually this is actually a hot take.
Okay.
So, it doesn't have anything to do with programming or software development. So, my hot take is that Bitcoin proof of work is actually good for the environment. And I'm going to tell you why. So, Bitcoin subsidizes the build out of renewable energy and sets a minimum price that producers of energy can sell their energy for. So it kind of sets a baseline for so it's basically subsidizes the build out of energy sources. And it's very nice to have Bitcoin miners on your energy grid because they can instantly turn off, which a lot of other industries can't. They often have to ramp up, or it takes a while for them to turn off. So, for example, you guys probably remember the Texas ERCOT situation a couple of years ago with the snowstorms. So there's a report somewhere floating around the web that explains this pretty well, which I'd suggest people read, rather than just think that, oh, it uses energy, therefore it must be bad. Read that report first, and then come to a conclusion after that, I'd say. There we go. Let's hear
That
it.
is controversial. That is a hot
I know,
take.
right?
I do wonder about these poor countries where the power's cheap. I wonder how much they're pushing the renewable energy agenda when they're just building Bitcoin mining farms. I'm just not sure those two correlate in that way.
I think they will. So I think the idea is that power producers are also going to be Bitcoin miners, because that kind of makes sense, because you can put your miners anywhere, right? So while you're building out your solar farms and they're not connected to the grid, you can just stick some miners there and subsidize the cost of building. And then when you're done with that solar farm, you just move on to the next one and rinse and repeat, pretty much.
So just to bring up a recent news article that at least two, I believe, definitely one, but maybe at least two, I think now, disused coal power stations in these countries have been reactivated just to build Bitcoin mining farms.
Absolutely.
I'm struggling to see the connection between renewable energy and that.
Well, I mean, one bad apple doesn't make the whole bunch bad, right? Or what's the saying?
One very bad apple.
Well,
or two.
Well, I mean, the problem there is more like maybe you should regulate the opening of old coal plants.
But that is
maybe that shouldn't be a thing.
That isn't happening there.
I know that doesn't mean it's a problem for Bitcoin. Bitcoin still, even if you start a couple of coal plants, it's still massively outweighed by the increase in power generation by the building of new solar farms powered or subsidized by Bitcoin miners. That's my hot take.
I'll read the paper. I'll read the paper, and I'll be intrigued by it.
Be skeptical and
I'm already skeptical, but generally
I know you are. Yeah. So that's my unpopular opinion, and I'm going to drop the link to the papers as well.
Sounds good.
All right, picks.
I had one, but I've lost it.
I don't have one. I haven't come up with anything in days. I've tried, just won't work.
It's definitely difficult.
You're out of picks.
Yeah, I'm out of picks.
Yeah.
Travis.
I have a very very short one, which is recently I switched computers because I no longer have a work computer, and I went back to my old non-M1 MacBook. And well, first of all, yeah, it is very slow. The battery is very short. You just miss everything about the M1 life. Anyway, so I was installing YouTube DL because I really wanted to grab one of my talks from React Miami. And to do that, you have to brew install. And then because it was an old laptop that I had not touched in 3 years, it was like, do you want to upgrade? No, it doesn't even ask you. It's just brew install YouTube DL. And it just upgrades every app you've ever installed. So, because that's the default behavior of brew.
That took a while, eh?
Yeah, so it took like half an hour, and like the fans all started spinning up because it's not an M1 machine. Anyway, so my pick is this environment variable that you can set called homebrew no auto update, which sounds like Japanese when I was reading it. I was like homebrew no auto update. And so that turns off this stupid default behavior. So my pick is actually that you should just put this in your bash as an alias. Like in my ZSHRC, I put it as an alias. So now whenever I type brew, that's always there.
What if you actually want to upgrade?
Then you turn it off.
Remove it.
Yeah. I just never want to upgrade. Like there's a separate command to upgrade, right? I don't know what it is because I never run it because every time I run brew install, it just does it.
Oh, right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, if I could unpick, I would unpick brew. I don't like it.
There's apparently alternatives. So Johannes Schickling, the creator of co-founder of Prisma, pointed me to Nix, which has constantly been on my radar, and everyone smart that I know has at least checked it out or uses it, which means probably in 1 to 2 years I'll be using it. But yeah, if Nix starts replacing brew, then you'll hear from me.
Yeah, I'm not saying that you don't need package management. I think that if it works on Mac and gives it that, it's true. But my point is that it should be built into the operating system, and I can't believe in this day and age that it's not. Like they should have picked one and built it in by now, because I can't imagine using an operating system that hasn't got native package management. It doesn't make sense to me. Like going to websites, hoping you hit the right one, hopefully not a sponsored link that's got some Trojan or something in it, downloading a thing, running a random installer, having a bizarre new UI to deal with your machine is just beyond me. Like, package management, apps install, done. Like, it's the only way I can imagine installing software. In fact, I get annoyed when I have to go to a website, like to get Google Chrome, for example, I have to go to a website and it annoys me.
Yeah. I kind of like the idea of having like putting your like an SH file on like in a gist on GitHub, and then just downloading that and then having that like install everything for you when you
yeah, you got to maintain it though.
Yeah, that's the problem. I've never managed to do that.
That's why I haven't got
every time I change computers, I just save it. I update that gist. So I do have that gist. I'll put it in the show notes. Mm-hmm. And cool. Yeah, I have a script that I follow every time I set up a new machine, and that's part of it.
Nice. All right, Anthony. So what was your pick? You don't have one, or
I thought I did,
I can go first.
Yeah, you should go.
Yeah. So I'm going to pick Castopod, which is a self-hosting solution for podcasts. I haven't tried it yet, so maybe it's a premature pick that I should have saved for another time. But yeah, it lets you host podcasts more easily without paying someone money, which is always nice. I actually, the other day, I was thinking about maybe it'd be nice to build something like Podcast Kit to just have, because there's really no, so this is the only solution really for self-hosting that's somewhat sane for a developer, at least. I think having something that makes it super simple for people to host podcasts would be great without having to pay for them. I'm sure there are like free solutions, like Anchor, I think is free, right?
Anchor sucks, don't use it. Owned by Spotify. Yeah. Spotify's trying to close around the free podcast ecosystem. Exactly. Screw them. And their podcast player sucks.
I agree. You should like that. Maybe that's another good pick, like an actual podcast player that doesn't.
What do you guys use?
That uses RSS.
I use Overcast. I'm not 100% happy with it, but it's good enough.
Yeah, I use Pocket Cast. So that lets you.
The Android ecosystem is really good.
Yeah, it lets you trim silences, which is super nice.
Everyone does that.
Yeah, maybe. I guess I just started using it so early that no one else had the feature. So I think I've used it for like 10 years or something. It feels like it, at least. Do you listen to podcasts, Anthony?
I do now and then, but not as a sort of regular thing. I don't have a regular one to listen to.
Right.
I think I really enjoy podcasts that aren't about tech. I think I might have tech overload, and so I think that I like listening to podcasts about true crime, or podcasts about sort of business, like approaching tech. Like, what's that one about? I think Scott Tolinsky recommended it or something about tech startups and how they became what they are. But things like that are interesting. I think that I'm not the typical podcast listener. Yeah.
Yep. That makes sense. What program do you use for?
Honestly, I've been using Spotify, but now I know I shan't.
Ooh.
I know, terrible. I had no idea. It was just there. It's like click.
I think that would. That's actually something that probably. I'd think that you would actually be very against using Spotify after hearing this.
I certainly am. Yeah, that's
it's your most normie pick.
Yeah.
This guy's like Linux, like Raspberry Pi, and Spotify.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
It's true. That's very true.
I think that's it for us. I think we. Oh wow, we've been recording for almost an hour.
Yeah.
I thought this was going to be a short one. All right. I guess I'll see you guys next week. And goodbye, everyone. And,
goodbye. See you next week.
See you. Bye.
Bye.